Your life will never rise higher than the standards you set for yourself. If you accept average, you will live average. But the moment you demand more, everything begins to shift. Think about it. Every choice you make is either pulling you closer to the life you want or keeping you stuck where you are. The food you eat, the people you spend time with, the effort you bring to your work, each one is a mirror of your standards. So let me ask you, are your standards keeping you trapped in mediocrity or lifting you toward greatness? Because here's the truth. Life doesn't give you what you want. Life gives you what you're willing to demand. In this journey, you'll discover how to raise your standards so high that success, respect, and a better life have no choice but to be attracted to you. The first and most important step to transforming your life is this: refuse average choices every day. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you are presented with decisions that shape your future. The standard you apply to those decisions will determine whether you live a life of mediocrity or a life of growth in strength and fulfillment. Average is seductive because it feels safe. It whispers to you that just getting by is enough. It tells you that comfort is more important than progress. It convinces you that following the crowd will protect you from risk, but average is a trap. It robs you of your potential one decision at a time. Think about the way you start your day. If you stay in bed longer than you should, you are teaching yourself that your comfort matters more than your goals. If you choose fast food because it is easy, you are teaching yourself that convenience matters more than energy. If you scroll endlessly on your phone instead of reading or building a new skill, you are teaching yourself that distraction matters more than growth. These small choices feel harmless, but over time they create an identity, and that identity becomes your life. When you raise your standards, you decide that average is no longer acceptable. You refuse to settle for what is easy or convenient, and you start demanding more from yourself in the smallest of ways. Waking up on time becomes non-negotiable. Eating food that strengthens your body becomes normal. Giving your best effort at work, even when nobody is watching, becomes your personal rule. These small, consistent decisions compound into strength and success. The danger of average is that it feels invisible at first. You can skip exercise for a week and nothing drastic happens. You can waste your evenings for a month and life doesn't collapse. You can spend money recklessly for a year and still find a way to get by. But then 5 years pass, 10 years pass, and suddenly you look in the mirror and realize that your health is broken. Your finances are unstable. Your confidence is weak. And your dreams feel out of reach. Average is never neutral. It always leads you downward, only slowly enough that you don't notice until it's too late. Refusing average choices requires courage because it means standing apart from the majority. Most people will tell you to relax, to enjoy life, to stop pushing so hard. They will tell you that being average is normal and that aiming higher is unnecessary. But their words are only reflections of their own choices. If you want more than they have, you must be willing to demand more than they demand from themselves. Look at the patterns in your life. Where have you been accepting average in your health? Do you accept low energy as normal? In your finances, do you accept living paycheck to paycheck as normal? In your relationships, do you accept disrespect, drama, or a lack of support as normal? In your personal growth, do you accept ignorance or stagnation as normal? Every one of these is a signal telling you that your standards have been set too low. Raising your standards begins with self-respect. When you decide that you deserve more, you naturally start demanding more from yourself. You no longer tolerate laziness. You no longer tolerate broken promises to yourself. You no longer tolerate half effort. You demand that your time is invested wisely, that your body is treated with care, and that your relationships are built on respect. This is not about perfection. It is about refusing to settle for less than you are capable of. Some people confuse high standards with arrogance. In reality, arrogance is expecting more from others while giving little yourself. True high standards are about expecting more from yourself first. They are about building habits of discipline, focus, and consistency that others cannot help but notice. And when others see that you hold yourself to a higher level, they begin to treat you differently. Opportunities come to you. Respect is given to you. Success is attracted to you because you have raised the bar. The psychological shift is powerful. Humans act in alignment with what they believe they deserve. If you believe you only deserve average, you will accept average treatment, average effort, and average results. But if you raise your standards, if you believe you deserve more, your actions rise to meet that belief. You will walk differently, talk differently, and think differently. And in time, your life will match the higher image you hold of yourself. The most difficult part is consistency. It is easy to raise your standards for a day or a week. The challenge is to raise them every single day until they become who you are. Discipline is not built in a moment of excitement. It is built in the daily choice to refuse average, no matter how tempting it may be. That is why raising your standards is not a one-time decision. It is a lifestyle. You must begin to see every choice as a vote. Each time you choose discipline over comfort, you cast a vote for the future you want. Each time you choose focus over distraction, you cast a vote for the life you are building. Each time you choose effort over laziness, you cast a vote for the identity of a strong, capable, successful person. And when you cast enough of those votes, your identity shifts. You no longer think of yourself as someone who occasionally rises above average. You see yourself as someone who lives at a higher standard every day. So today, ask yourself, what average choices have you been allowing? What small compromises have been stealing your future? And more importantly, what will you do differently starting now? The answers to those questions will define the quality of your life. Raising your standards by refusing average choices is the foundation of everything else. If you cannot say no to average, you will never say yes to greatness. But if you begin to refuse average in your health, in your work, in your relationships, and in your habits, you will set into motion a transformation that no force can stop. Greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It is reserved for those who choose every day to raise their standards. Refuse average today, and you will begin to attract the life you have always known was possible. If raising your standards is the foundation, then setting clear personal rules is the structure that holds your life together. Without rules, your life drifts. With rules, your life aligns. The truth is simple. People do not rise to the level of their goals. They fall to the level of their standards, and your standards are enforced by the rules you create for yourself. Rules are not about restriction. They are about freedom. Most people believe freedom is doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But that version of freedom quickly turns into chaos. If you eat whatever you want, your health suffers. If you spend money without limits, your finances collapse. If you let emotion dictate your behavior, your relationships fall apart. Real freedom is the ability to live with clarity and strength and control. And that only comes from having personal rules. Think of rules as the guardrails on a highway. Without them, cars swerve dangerously. Accidents multiply, and lives are lost. With guardrails, movement is safe, direction is clear, and progress is possible. Your personal rules serve the same purpose. They protect you from drifting into behaviors that weaken you. They keep you aligned with your higher standards, even when your emotions try to pull you off track. The danger of living without rules is that you leave your life at the mercy of feelings. One day you feel motivated, so you work hard. The next day you feel tired, so you procrastinate. One week you eat healthy. The next week you give in to junk. That inconsistency destroys momentum. Motivation is unreliable. Feelings change every hour. But rules hold steady. They don't care if you're tired, bored, or unmotivated. If you set the rule, you follow it. Imagine creating a rule that says, I exercise for at least 30 minutes every day. Now, it no longer matters how you feel when the alarm rings. The decision has already been made. Or consider the rule, I save 10% of every dollar I earn before I spend anything. Suddenly, you are protected from impulse decisions because your money already has a purpose. Rules transform preferences into commitments, and commitments build consistency. Consistency is where results come from. Anyone can do the right thing once. Few can do it every day. Your rules bridge that gap. They remind you that success is not built on occasional bursts of effort, but on daily follow-through. Now let's be clear. Rules must be simple and meaningful. If you create too many, you overwhelm yourself. But if you choose a few powerful ones, they reshape your life. For example, I never lie. Not even small lies. This rule builds integrity and trust. I read for 30 minutes every day. This rule builds knowledge and growth. I go to bed before midnight. This rule builds energy and discipline. I treat every person with respect. This rule builds character and relationships. Each of these rules seems small, but together they create an identity that others admire and opportunities are drawn to. Why are personal rules so powerful? Because they give you clarity. Many people say they value success, but without rules, their actions say otherwise. They value health, but they eat recklessly. They value growth, but they waste hours on entertainment. Words alone change nothing. Rules force alignment between what you say you value and how you actually live. Rules also shape how others see you. People respect those who live by clear standards. If you say, I don't gossip, people learn not to bring gossip to you. If you always arrive on time, let people know you can be trusted. If you never break your promises, people admire you. And when people respect you, they treat you differently. Better relationships, better opportunities, and better outcomes follow naturally. Another benefit of rules is self-respect. Every time you keep a rule you've set, you prove to yourself that your word matters. That builds confidence. But every time you break your own rule, you weaken trust in yourself. Many people struggle with self-confidence not because they lack ability, but because they repeatedly break promises to themselves. They say they'll wake up early but hit snooze. They say they'll save money but spend impulsively. Over time, they stop believing their own words. Rules rebuild that trust. When you honor your commitments, you start to feel proud again. You must also understand that rules will be tested. Life will throw temptations at you. Friends may mock your discipline. Weak environments may encourage you to relax. But that is when your rules prove their value. They keep you steady when everything else tries to pull you off course. They remind you of the future you are building, not just the mood you feel in the moment. Start small. Write down 3 rules today that, if you followed them consistently, would transform your life. Make them simple, clear, and non-negotiable. Post them where you see them daily. Commit to them as if your future depends on them, because it does. The truth is this: every person lives by rules. Some just don't realize it. If your rule is, I'll eat whatever I crave, then your health will pay the price. If your rule is, I'll work only hard enough not to get fired, then your career will stagnate. If your rule is, I'll stay in relationships even when they drain me, then your heart will stay heavy. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is not whether they have rules, it's whether their rules are strong enough to create growth. So ask yourself, what rules are you living by right now? Do they protect your future or sabotage it? Are they lifting you higher or keeping you stuck? If you want to attract a better life, don't wait for luck, talent, or chance. Build it with structure. Create rules that reflect your highest standards. Live by them relentlessly. And watch how your life begins to rise. Because success is not accidental. It is structured, and the structure you need begins with the personal rules you enforce every single day. Most people wait for a big opportunity before they decide to give their best. They tell themselves, when the moment is important, I'll rise to the occasion. But the truth is this: you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your habits, and your habits are built in the smallest, simplest, most ordinary tasks you do every day. Excellence is not something you turn on when the spotlight hits you. Excellence is a lifestyle. It shows up in how you fold your clothes, how you send an email, how you speak to a stranger, how you finish your work when nobody is watching. Every small task is a reflection of your standards. If you demand higher effort in the little things, you prepare yourself for greatness in the big things. Think about it. If you consistently cut corners in the details, you are training your brain to accept mediocrity as normal. That habit will show up later when stakes are higher, when your health is on the line, when your relationships are tested, when your career requires real strength. On the other hand, if you approach even the smallest actions with focus, energy, and pride, you are programming yourself to live with discipline and resilience. Consider how a professional athlete trains. They don't just work hard when the championship game is near. They train with intensity in practice, in diet, in recovery, in sleep. They demand higher effort from themselves in moments that seem invisible to the outside world. That's why, when the spotlight arrives, their performance looks effortless. The truth is, they've already done the work thousands of times in private. Their excellence in the small details is what creates victory in the big moments. The same principle applies to your life. You don't have to be an athlete to live by this standard. You simply need to make a decision. I will no longer treat small tasks as unimportant. I will use them as training for who I am becoming. This shift transforms your entire mindset. Suddenly, Cleaning your home is no longer just about tidying, it's about practicing discipline. Writing an email is no longer just communication, it's about practicing clarity. Waking up on time is no longer just a routine, it's about practicing commitment. Each small task becomes an opportunity to strengthen the identity of someone who takes life seriously. Here's the danger of neglecting small tasks. The consequences don't show up immediately. You skip one workout and nothing changes. You spend too much money once and nothing collapses. You show up late once and people forgive you. That's why most people fall into the trap. But neglect repeated day after day compounds into weakness. Small cracks become big fractures. Before you realize it, the habit of giving less effort has shaped your entire life. Now flip the coin. When you demand higher effort in the small things, the results don't appear overnight either. But day by day, week by week, month by month, the results become undeniable. Your body becomes stronger, your finances become secure, your reputation becomes solid, your self-respect deepens. That's the power of compounding effort. There is also a psychological effect. Every time you give your best, even in something small, you send yourself a message: I am someone who can be trusted. I am someone who takes pride in what I do. That message builds self-confidence, and self-confidence is not built by repeating affirmations in the mirror. It is built by watching yourself follow through. Again and again. Think about your workplace. Two people are assigned the same small task. One does the minimum, checking the box. The other does it with focus and care. Who do you think gets noticed? Who do you think is trusted with bigger opportunities later? Life rewards those who treat every task as an opportunity to show excellence. This principle also transforms relationships. If you demand higher effort in listening, in kindness, in patience, your relationships deepen. If you demand higher effort in how you manage your money, your finances stabilize. If you demand higher effort in your health routines, your energy expands. Every small action is connected to a larger outcome. When you see the connection, you stop treating anything as meaningless. One of the greatest shifts you can make is moving from when I feel like it to because it's my standard. Most people only give effort when they feel inspired. That's why their results are inconsistent. They shine for a moment and disappear the next. But when you give effort as a rule, not as a mood, you become unstoppable. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop asking, do I feel motivated today? Instead, you say, this is my standard. I do it because it's who I am. Don't confuse this with perfectionism. Demanding higher effort does not mean everything must be flawless. It means everything must be done with pride and discipline. Even if the result isn't perfect, your effort is. That consistent effort builds progress over time. And here's the best part. When you live this way, people notice. They see that you take life seriously. They trust you. They respect you. They offer you opportunities, promotions, and partnerships. But even more powerful than external rewards is the inner reward. You go to bed at night knowing you gave your best. That pride is priceless. So start today. Take the next small task in front of you and raise your effort. If you're exercising, add one more rep. If you're studying, review your notes one more time. If you're working, polish your project a little further. If you're speaking to someone, give them your full attention. These tiny choices build your identity, because success is not built on rare moments of brilliance. It is built on ordinary moments, done with extraordinary effort. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And when you demand higher effort from yourself in every small task, you transform not just your habits, but your entire life. Your standards are not only reflected in your habits, routines, and mindset. They are also reflected in the company you keep. Every relationship is an influence, whether you realize it or not. The people closest to you are either pushing you higher or pulling you down. If you want to raise your standards and attract a better life, you must carefully choose relationships that match those standards. This is not about arrogance. It's not about thinking you are better than anyone else. It's about protecting your growth. If you spend time with people who complain, gossip, and accept mediocrity, it won't be long before you start copying their behavior. Humans are wired to adapt to their environment. Belonging feels safe. And without even noticing, you will start lowering your own bar to fit in. But the opposite is also true. If you surround yourself with people who live with integrity, on disciplina, ambition, and respect, you will naturally begin to rise to that level. Excellence is contagious. Discipline is contagious. Growth is contagious. The question is, which kind of contagion are you letting into your life? Think about it. If every conversation you hear is filled with excuses, complaints, or negativity, that becomes the atmosphere you breathe in every day. Over time, it changes how you think. On the other hand, if you spend your days around people who push themselves, who celebrate growth, who challenge you to keep promises, you begin to see higher standards as the new normal. That's why choosing relationships is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. It is not enough to raise your personal standards in isolation. You can set rules for yourself. You can demand higher effort from yourself. But if your closest relationships are pulling you in the opposite direction, your progress will always be slowed down. Ask yourself, who in your life truly encourages you to be your best? Who makes excuses for you when you don't follow through? Who celebrates your growth? And who feels threatened by it? These questions are not easy, but they reveal the truth. Sometimes you'll realize that people you've known for years are no longer aligned with the future you're building, and that's okay. Time spent together in the past does not equal permission to shape your future. Choosing relationships that match your standards does not mean expecting perfection from others. It means expecting alignment in values and direction. If your standard is respect, then you cannot keep people close who consistently disrespect you. If your standard is discipline, then you cannot keep leaning on people who encourage recklessness. If your standard is honesty, then you cannot tolerate people who lie repeatedly. These are not small preferences. They are the foundation of the life you are building. And here's the difficult part. Sometimes you have to let go. Growth often demands courage. And courage often means stepping away from the familiar. It does not mean you stop caring for people. It means you care enough about your own future to protect it. You cannot attract a better life if you keep holding on to relationships that drag you back into old patterns. But here's the good news. The moment you make space, the right people begin to enter. When you hold yourself to higher standards, you naturally attract others who do the same. People who value growth will notice you. People who live with discipline will respect you. People who have raised their own standards will welcome you into their circle because they see you as one of them. Like attracts like. Relationships also provide accountability. You can set personal goals and rules, but when you're surrounded by people who demand more from themselves, they will naturally demand more from you. 2. They'll remind you of your word. They'll push you when you get lazy. They'll challenge you when you slip. That kind of accountability may feel uncomfortable, but it's powerful. Without it, you drift. With it, you rise. Remember this, your circle is a mirror. It reflects who you are becoming. If you want to see progress in your reflection, you must change the circle. Stop giving your time to those who pull you down. Start investing your time in those who lift you up. So choose wisely. Define your non-negotiables. Surround yourself with people who reflect your standards of respect, growth, discipline, and honesty. Protect your energy. Protect your future. Because when your relationships rise, your entire life rises with them. One of the greatest mistakes people make is lowering their standards just to fit into environments that are beneath what they truly deserve. It often happens quietly, without much thought. You walk into a workplace where people do the minimum, and soon you begin to do the same just to blend in. You spend time with friends who waste their days on gossip, distractions, and negativity. And little by little, you adapt to that energy, even though deep inside you know you are meant for more. Every time you lower your standards to match your environment, you lose a piece of your identity. And with enough compromise, you can forget who you really are. Weak environments make mediocrity look normal. They convince you that discipline is strange, that ambition is arrogant, that striving for excellence makes you different. But here's the truth. You are supposed to be different. Growth is not about blending in. It's about standing out. Think about how environments shape behavior. If you place yourself in a room full of lazy habits, you will be tempted to relax your own. If you surround yourself with constant complaining, you will soon complain too. Humans crave belonging, and that desire can either elevate you or destroy you. Belonging to weak environments means shrinking to fit in. Belonging to strong environments means rising to be worthy of them. So ask yourself, how often have you betrayed your own standards just to avoid standing out? Maybe you stayed quiet when you should have spoken up. Maybe you gave half effort because everyone else was coasting. Maybe you tolerated disrespect because you didn't want conflict. Each one of those decisions is a silent agreement with weakness. And over time, it builds a life that falls short of your true potential. The real danger is that you may not notice the decline right away. Lowering your standards feels harmless in the moment. Skipping discipline once doesn't destroy you. Laughing along with negativity feels easier than walking away. But slowly, these compromises shape your identity. You start believing that average is who you are, when in fact, it's only who you've allowed yourself to become. If you want to raise your life, you must stop lowering your standards to fit weak environments. Protect them, even if it means being misunderstood. Stand firm, even if it feels uncomfortable. There will be times when people mock you for being disciplined, when they criticize you for having ambition, when they try to shame you back into mediocrity. But that discomfort is temporary. What stays with you is the pride of knowing you refuse to compromise. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop lowering yourself, you begin to attract environments that rise to meet you. Opportunities notice people who refuse to settle. Leaders respect those who hold firm to their values. New circles open because you dared to step out of the old ones. Life rewards people who set unshakable standards. Of course, this isn't easy. Sometimes it means leaving jobs that no longer honor your growth. Sometimes it means distancing yourself from relationships that constantly pull you down. Sometimes it means being the only person in the room who chooses excellence while everyone else chooses comfort. But let me remind you, standing alone with integrity is far better than standing together in weakness. Your environment is powerful, but your decision is stronger. You may not control every place you walk into, but you can always control whether you lower your standards once you are there. That choice defines your future. If you continue to compromise, you will build a life filled with regret. If you stand tall, you will build a life filled with pride. So make the decision today. Stop shrinking to fit in. Stop betraying your vision to please the crowd. Stop adapting to weakness. Instead, hold firm to your discipline, your values, your respect, and your ambition, and watch how your life transforms. Because when you stop lowering your standards, you rise above the noise, and the world has no choice but to meet you at the level you demand. If you want a stronger future, you must begin with discipline. Discipline is not something you turn on when life gets tough. It is the foundation you build every single day. Without discipline, talent gets wasted. Without discipline, dreams remain dreams. Without discipline, potential fades away. The future does not improve by accident. It improves through structure, responsibility, and repeated choices that demand effort. Most people wait for motivation to take action. They want to feel ready before they move. But here's the problem. Motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you feel inspired, and other mornings you don't. If your life depends on motivation, your life will always be inconsistent. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline tells you what must be done and expects you to do it. Think about health. If you rely on motivation, you might work out once or twice a week when you feel good, but discipline makes you show up daily, even when you'd rather stay in bed. Think about finances. If you rely on motivation, you might save money only when it feels convenient. But discipline makes you save and invest consistently, no matter how tempting it is to spend. Think about relationships. If you rely on mood, you might show respect when you're in a good state of mind. But discipline ensures you speak with kindness and patience even when you're tired or frustrated. Discipline is the invisible system that protects your future. It builds confidence, because every time you follow through, you prove to yourself that your word matters. Confidence is not built by empty affirmations. It's built by watching yourself act with consistency. If you say you'll wake up early, and you do, you begin to believe in yourself. If you say you'll complete your work with focus and you follow through, your self-trust grows. This kind of trust is priceless, because when you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. Another truth discipline creates freedom. At first, it feels restrictive. People think discipline limits their choices, but the opposite is true. Discipline frees you from regret, from chaos, from wasted time. If you discipline your money, you are free from debt. If you discipline your health, you are free from sickness. If you discipline your focus, you are free from distraction. The so-called freedom of no discipline is only a trap. It feels good for a moment but leaves you powerless in the long run. Discipline also separates those who rise from those who settle. When life gets hard, motivation disappears. But discipline carries you through When setbacks happen, discipline keeps you moving. When fear shows up, discipline makes you act anyway. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about refusing to quit. You will slip at times. You will miss a step. But discipline means you return quickly, realign, and keep going. Weak people stay down when they fail. Strong people rise because their standards demand it. And here's the truth. Nobody else can do this for you. Mentors can inspire you. Friends can encourage you. Coaches can guide you. But at the end of the day, you are the only one who decides whether you follow through. If you keep expecting discipline to come from someone else, an accountability partner, a boss, a parent, you'll never be free. Real freedom is when you learn to demand discipline from yourself. So how do you build it? You start small, but firm. Create rules that don't bend. For example, I exercise for at least 30 minutes daily. I save 10% of every paycheck before I spend. I read 20 minutes a day to sharpen my mind. These rules don't ask how you feel. They guide your behavior, no matter what. Over time, they become identity. You no longer have to think about discipline, you simply live it. Your stronger future is waiting, but it won't be built by hope. It won't be built by wishes. It will be built by discipline, by the daily choices you make, by the rules you enforce, by the standards you refuse to lower. Expect discipline from yourself, not only when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard, because that's when your future is being written. Success does not come to people who wait for luck. Success is attracted to people who hold themselves to higher expectations, those who demand more from their actions, their mindset, and their results. When you expect little, you live small. But when you expect more, your life naturally begins to rise. Most people live with low expectations because it's comfortable. They tell themselves, as long as I can pay the bills, I'm fine. Or, as long as I do just enough to keep my job, I'll survive. But survival is not success. Survival is the bare minimum. If you want to create a life that is extraordinary, you must expect more than survival. You must expect growth, influence, wealth, respect, and fulfillment. Think of expectations as a thermostat. If you set it low, your life will always cool down to match. If you set it high, your life will heat up to meet that level. Your expectations set the boundaries of your future. And here's the truth. Your actions will always rise or fall to meet the level of your expectations. When you raise them, you change everything. Suddenly, you stop being satisfied with mediocrity. You no longer accept sloppy work from yourself. You stop excusing laziness. You start checking your habits. You start improving your skills. You begin asking, how can I do this better, instead of how can I just get it done? This mental shift changes how you work, how you think, and how you live. Let's take a practical example. If your expectation is simply to keep your job, you'll do the minimum required. But if your expectation is to become excellent in your field, you'll study more, practice more, and deliver at a higher level than others. Over time, that higher expectation attracts promotions, partnerships, and trust. People notice when you expect greatness from yourself and they respond to it. The same principle applies to health. If your expectation is, I just don't want to be sick, you'll make average choices with food. exercise, and rest. But if your expectation is, I want to live with energy, strength, and vitality, your decisions transform instantly. You'll choose water over soda, exercise over excuses, sleep over scrolling. Higher expectations build stronger habits. This is why so many people fail to grow. Their expectations are too low. They don't demand enough from themselves, so their actions stay weak. Then they blame luck, circumstances, or other people for their results. But the truth is, their results are simply the reflection of their expectations. When you hold yourself to higher expectations, you eliminate the excuses. Excuses thrive in low standards. I'm tired, so I skipped it. I didn't have time. It's good enough. These phrases disappear when your expectations rise. Because when you expect more, good enough is never enough. Higher expectations also change your identity. You stop seeing yourself as average. You start seeing yourself as someone capable of excellence. That belief changes your decisions. You show up differently. You speak with more confidence. You carry yourself with more purpose, and people around you feel that energy. They begin to treat you as someone valuable, someone reliable, someone destined for more. Of course, there's a cost. When you raise your expectations, some people will criticize you. They'll say, you're too serious. You work too hard. You think you're better than us? But remember this, their criticism is just proof that your standards make them uncomfortable. Don't lower your expectations to make others feel safe. Protect them, because your future depends on them. The truth is, opportunities are attracted to people who demand more of themselves. Employers notice. Mentors notice. Even strangers notice. The world rewards those who consistently show up with high standards. You may not see results immediately, but over time, the rewards are inevitable. So here's the challenge. Stop asking if you can and start asking how you can. Stop waiting for life to hand you success and start demanding it from yourself. Hold yourself to higher expectations in your health, your work, your finances, your relationships, and your growth. Demand excellence, discipline, and consistency, because when you do, success will have no choice but to find you. If you want to build a better life, don't wait for some massive opportunity to appear. Don't wait for luck, chance, or a once-in-a-lifetime event. A better life is built in the small, ordinary moments of every single day. And the key is this: raise your daily performance standards. Most people underestimate the power of a single day. They say, skipping today doesn't matter. I'll start tomorrow. But here's the truth: tomorrow never comes. Each day you lower your standards, you weaken your future. Each day you raise your standards, you strengthen it. Think of your life as a house. Every day is a brick. If you place your bricks carelessly, your house collapses. If you place them with precision and intention, your house becomes unshakable. That's what daily performance standards are. The way you place your bricks. What does this look like in real life? It's how you wake up in the morning. Do you roll out of bed late, scrolling through your phone? Or do you get up with purpose, ready to set the tone for the day? It's how you handle your work. Do you just check the box? Or do you bring focus and energy even to the smallest tasks? It's how you treat your body. Do you feed it junk that drags you down? Or fuel it with what gives you energy? Every choice reflects a standard, and your standards create your reality. Here's the difference. Average people think in terms of getting by. Extraordinary people think in terms of how can I do this better? That one question changes everything. When you ask, how can I do this with more focus, more discipline, more effort, you raise your standard and your life rises with it. Let's get practical. Suppose your standard for work is just to finish tasks. You'll do the minimum and stay invisible. But if your standard is excellence, even in the smallest detail, you'll stand out. People will notice your reliability. They'll trust you with more. That's how promotions, partnerships, and opportunities find you. Not by luck, but by your daily standards. The same is true for health. If your standard is don't get sick, you'll avoid effort until it's too late. But if your standard is live strong and energized, you'll exercise daily, eat clean, and rest properly. And over time, that standard creates a body and mind capable of handling life at a higher level. Raising daily standards also transforms your self-image. When you know you've given your best every day, you build pride. You trust yourself. You carry confidence into every situation. On the other hand, when you know you've cut corners, skipped commitments, or wasted hours, you weaken your own belief. Success begins not with the applause of others, but with the pride you feel when you look in the mirror. This is why high-performance standards matter. They build consistency. Motivation comes and goes. Feelings rise and fall. But standards remain firm. They don't ask, do you feel like it? They demand, did you do it? That's discipline. And discipline compounds over time until it becomes unstoppable momentum. It's also worth noting that raising standards doesn't mean perfection. You'll stumble, you'll miss a step. But the difference is this: high standards don't let one bad day turn into a bad week. You reset quickly. You hold the line. You don't let small failures rewrite your story. Think of athletes. Champions don't train hard only when they feel motivated. They train hard every day, because that's the standard. The same applies to you, whether it's in your career, your finances, your relationships, or your health. Make excellence your default setting. The beautiful thing is, anyone can do this. You don't need talent, wealth, or luck to raise your standards. You just need a decision. Decide today that you will stop giving half effort. Decide that you will stop wasting hours on distractions. Decide that every task, big or small, deserves your best. When you live this way, opportunities start to notice. People respect you more. Your confidence grows. And slowly but surely, your life transforms, because success is not built on one big day. It's built on 1,000 small days, lived at a higher standard. So raise your daily performance. Protect your hours. Demand effort in everything you do. Don't let a single day be wasted, because each day is a building block of the life you are creating. There comes a moment in every journey when raising your standards is not enough. You must also defend them, because no matter how strong your vision is, life will test it. People will push your boundaries. Circumstances will challenge your discipline. Even your own emotions will tempt you to compromise. And the moment you accept something that disrespects your standards, you weaken the foundation of your future. Think about it. What good is setting high standards if you allow them to be ignored by yourself, by others, or by your environment? Standards mean nothing unless you enforce them. Refusing disrespect is not arrogance. It's self-respect. It's your way of saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And I will not lower my values to make others comfortable. In relationships, this principle is critical. If your standard is respect, but you allow someone to speak to you with contempt, you've lowered your bar. If your standard is honesty, but you tolerate lies, you've lowered your bar. Every time you allow disrespect, you send yourself a message. Maybe my values don't matter. And if you repeat that message enough, you start believing it. But when you hold the line, when you say, no, I don't accept this, you reinforce your self-worth. People may not like it. Some will leave. Others may criticize you. But the ones who remain will know they're dealing with someone who values themselves. And that respect attracts better relationships, better opportunities, and better environments. This principle also applies to your personal habits. If your standard is discipline, but you constantly skip commitments, you're disrespecting yourself. If your standard is health, but you feed your body junk every day, you're disrespecting yourself. Refusing disrespect isn't only about saying no to others, it's about saying no to your own weakness. It's about correcting yourself when you fall short and realigning quickly. Here's the truth. Refusing disrespect is uncomfortable. It may mean walking away from people you've known for years. It may mean leaving jobs or groups that no longer reflect your values. It may mean standing alone when others expect you to blend in. But discomfort is temporary. Regret is permanent. The pain of enforcing your standards today is nothing compared to the pain of living years beneath them. When you refuse disrespect, you send a clear signal to the world and to yourself. You are no longer negotiable. Your time is valuable. Your word is sacred. Your standards are unshakable. That energy changes everything. It attracts people who value discipline, honesty, and respect. It repels people who thrive on excuses, negativity, and mediocrity. In other words, your standards become a filter protecting your life from what does not belong. Of course, refusing disrespect doesn't mean you fight every battle or argue with every critic. It means you choose your environments wisely. If a place constantly drags you down, you don't stay hoping it changes. You leave. If a person consistently crosses your boundaries, you don't beg them to see your worth. You step away. The refusal isn't about conflict. It's about clarity. Life will always give you what you tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll get more of it. If you refuse it, you force the world to rise to your level. That's why protecting your standards is just as important as raising them, because your standards shape your identity, and your identity shapes your future. So take a hard look at your life. Where are you tolerating disrespect? Where have you lowered your bar? Where are you betraying your own values? Be honest. And then make the decision no more. From this point forward, refuse to accept anything that weakens your standards. Hold the line. Protect your foundation. Because the life you dream of doesn't require perfection, it requires firmness. And once you refuse to compromise, your life will rise to match the standards you've chosen. Every standard you've set, every rule you've committed to, every discipline you've practiced, all of it rises or falls on one thing, your mindset. Because your life will never expand beyond the limits of your thinking. If your mind is small, your life will remain small. If your mind is weak, your results will remain weak. But when you raise your mindset, When you demand strength, clarity, and discipline in the way you think, everything else in your life begins to rise with it. The truth is, most people fail not because they lack opportunities, but because their thinking never grows past their circumstances. They keep recycling the same thoughts. I can't. It's too hard. This is enough. And those thoughts keep producing the same results. To break free, you must rewire the way you think. You must decide that your mind is no longer a prison. It is the engine that powers your future. Raising your mindset means refusing to dwell on excuses and instead training your mind to search for solutions. It means refusing to see obstacles as permanent and choosing to see them as temporary tests that build your strength. It means telling yourself the truth, not the truth of your fears, but the truth of your potential. The person you become tomorrow depends entirely on the words and beliefs you allow into your mind today. Consider this: every action you take is shaped by the story you tell yourself. If you repeat, "I'm average," "I'm stuck," "I'm unlucky," then you act in ways that confirm it. But if you start saying, "I am capable," "I am growing," "I am building," your choices shift. You wake up earlier, you push harder, you demand more. Words create beliefs. Beliefs create actions, and actions create destiny. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to take full responsibility for everything in your life. Weak mindsets blame circumstances. Strong mindsets say, "If it happened, it's my job to learn from it and grow." That responsibility is not a burden, it's freedom. Because as long as you blame, you give your power away. But when you own everything, you reclaim control. Raising your mindset also means raising your focus. Whatever you fix your mind on expands. Focus on problems, and problems grow. Focus on opportunities, and opportunities multiply. Focus on growth, and progress becomes inevitable. This isn't about ignoring reality, it's about interpreting reality in a way that empowers you instead of weakens you. Two people can face the same storm. One sees defeat, the other sees training. The storm is the same, but the mindset is different. And the mindset decides who survives and who thrives. Your influences matter too. What you read, what you watch, who you listen to, and who you spend time with. All of these shape your thoughts. You cannot build a strong mindset while feeding yourself negativity, gossip, and distraction. You must become intentional about what you allow into your head. Surround yourself with learning, with wisdom, with people who stretch your vision instead of shrinking it. Protect your mental diet as fiercely as you protect your physical health. And remember, raising your mindset is not about instant change. It's about consistent training. Just like a muscle, your mind strengthens through repetition. Every day you reject doubt. Every day you replace fear with responsibility. Every day you push your thinking higher. You are rewiring yourself for strength. One day, you will look back and realize the old version of you, the one who gave up easily, who lived in excuses, no longer exists. Of course, your mindset will be tested. Life will bring setbacks, criticism, and failure. The question is not whether these things happen. The question is, when they do, will you drop back to your old ways of thinking? Or will you hold firm to your higher standards? These tests are not there to break you, they are there to confirm you. Each time you pass, your identity grows stronger, And here's the ultimate reward. When you raise your mindset, you gain freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from doubt. Freedom from regret. You no longer live controlled by temporary emotions. You no longer settle for what is comfortable. You no longer hide behind excuses. Instead, you live with clarity, confidence, and courage. You begin to set goals that stretch you. You begin to see opportunities that others overlook. You begin to believe you truly deserve more. So raise your mindset until your life has no choice but to improve. Challenge every thought that weakens you. Replace every excuse with responsibility. Feed your mind with learning, with wisdom, with strength. Surround yourself with people who think at a higher level. Expect more of yourself mentally than you ever have before. Because when your mindset rises, your life rises with it. And now, the decision is in your hands. You've seen how raising your standards can transform everything: your health, your relationships, your discipline, and ultimately, your entire destiny. But knowing is not enough. Change only begins when you act. So ask yourself right now, will you keep living by the old rules of average, or will you raise your standards so high that life has no choice but to rise with you? The choice you make today will echo in your future. If this message spoke to you, I don't just let it fade. Take one step today, one standard you will raise, one rule you will commit to, one area of your life where you refuse to settle. That single decision could change everything. And if you're ready to keep growing with us, make sure to hit subscribe, tap the like button, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Every time you do, you're not just supporting this channel, you're helping spread Napoleon Hill's timeless wisdom to more people who are searching for a better life. Remember, this average is crowded, but excellence is wide open. Raise your standards, claim your power, and step boldly into the life you were meant to live. Your future is waiting. Don't keep it waiting any longer.